tonight's upstart, Brian Garrow, an unseeded sophomore from UCLA. Garrow has cut his way to the finals with an aggressive serve and volley game and enters the match on the wings of one upset after another. Coming up, the 1988 Men's NCAA Division I Tennis Championship. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a sun-drenched stadium here at the University of Georgia in Athens. It could not be a more perfect day for tennis. I'm Tim Prince, and the story is this. We have had the team competition. Stanford has won that, but now we have the individual competition, and we have a dandy for you. Joining me for the commentary, Steve Flink, executive editor of World Tennis Magazine. And Steve, Robbie Weiss, no surprise, he's in the final. He's the #1 seed, but an upstart of sorts, I guess you might say, Brian Garrow of UCLA.
Indeed he is, Kim. Brian Garrow beat his teammate, Buff Farrow, the #5 seed in the semifinals after already having eliminated Greg Van Enberg of the University of Kentucky, 2 of the top 8 seeds eliminated by Garrow to reach this final. He's only ranked 40th in the nation in the Volvo intercollegiate rankings, so this is a tremendous performance on his part.
What about a contrast in styles, Weiss versus Garrow?
Well, Weiss is the premier player in college tennis because of his ground game, which is solid and relentless. Heavy topspin off both sides, no weaknesses. He hits great depth off both sides with the topspin, returns serve beautifully. And he's tough to beat from the baseline. But on the other hand, we've got Garrow, who's a relentless serve and volleyer. He attacks at every propitious moment, and it's tough to beat him if he's volleying exceedingly well.
So there it is, the senior counterpuncher versus the attacking sophomore. This NCAA Men's Championship is brought to you by Michelob. So exceptionally smooth. The night belongs to Michelob. And by Siemens. Leading-edge technology that gives you an edge.
Can you expect?
Perfect day for tennis, and for those of you who have been watching the French Open or have not seen collegiate tennis in a while, we have a tournament here that uses no ad scoring. The first player with 4 points wins the game. If the players get to 3-all, the receiver has the choice of the court he will receive in. 12-point tiebreaker at 6-all. Pretty much standard fare these days. And the coaches, unlike regular tennis, are allowed at the courtside to coach. Those coaches, of course, for UCLA will be Glenn Bassett and Alan Fox for Robbie Weiss from Pepperdine. In the near part of your court, the bottom of the court, Robbie Weiss, the #1 seed here, 20 years old. A lanky 5'9", 155 pounds from Los Altos Hills, California. Robbie came into this tournament #1 seeded in the country, but he did not come into the year #1 seeded. He had some injuries last year, a broken thumb, some tendonitis in his shoulder. But no surprise, he's had a terrific year this year.
So good, Kim, in fact, that he's won 54 out of 56 matches across this collegiate season. He did lose here in the team championship, which preceded this individual championship, to Danny Goldberg of the University of Michigan. But that was only his second defeat of the season.
And his opponent, the man who we've been calling an upstart, but in his own mind, a fellow who rightfully thinks he should be here, Brian Garrow, a sophomore from UCLA. And I made a mistake. He is from Los Altos Hills, California. Robbie Weiss is from Wheeling, Illinois. Forgive me on that. 5'9", 155. Unseeded into the tournament, has won 6 consecutive matches. His year has been a bit up and down. He is 17-8 in the dual matches for his team at UCLA, but he has been named the most improved Bruin. So we're about to begin. Dana Lecanto, the chair umpire.
Right off the bat, Kim, we see the pattern of developing in this match because Garrow must take any opportunity to get to the net and press Weiss, put as much pressure on him as possible. He did there as a good deep approach shot, but Robbie Weiss found that clear opening down the line for a clean winner. unusual to see Weiss attacking himself this early in the match. He's very selective about his moves into the forecourt, but he picked a good ball to come in on there and showed how well he can volley.
So 2 out of the first 3 points. Robbie Weiss gets to net, kind of changing the tables a little bit early on.
He's fully exploiting those short returns of serve from Garrow.
First serve.
Yesterday, Robbie beat the #1 player from Georgia, Al Parker, who is a freshman.
Game 1.
So Robbie Weiss, no surprise, wins the first game of this match. We'll be more tennis in just a minute. Seed here. Yesterday, Steve Flink had a chance to talk with Robbie about his tactics in his match today against Brian Garrow.
He's a certain baller, and for me to do well tomorrow, I'm going to have to be returning well and passing well, and keep him off the net if I can. And I know he's going to be trying to get in, and it's just, you know, if he can get in, and if I can pass well, it's going to be a battle of, you know, certain volume passing shots.
1-0.
He got in.
He sure did.
And Weiss had no chance to pass.
Well, it was a good reaction from Garrow because the return of serve clipped that net cord, hung in the air for an instant there. Garrow was very decisive, closed in, and angled off that backhand volley cross court for a winner. Should give him some confidence now. His first point he's won in the match.
No. 1-0.
Steve, we talk of Brian Garrow as a strong serve and volley player, but it strikes me that he's got an awfully high toss, and sometimes if that toss is not just right, that can throw your game off.
You're right. Fortunately for him, very calm day here, not much wind, and he can get away with it more in these conditions than he can when it's gusty. There we see the excellence of that return of serve from Weiss. A good wide topspin slice serve from Garrow to the forehand side of Weiss, who laced it down the line and forced that error on the volley. The last 2 returns of serve from Weiss have been extraordinary.
That's it, Brian. Beautiful. Another first serve.
Here, Coach Glenn Bassett of UCLA shouting encouragement to Brian. Look at how quickly he gets in now. Good angled first volley set up by the serve to win the point for Garrow. Back to 2-all in this game. A very important one, I might add, because he does not want to let Weiss build a quick 2-love lead in this final.
Game 3.
That was one of those borderline points there. A good, solid return of serve from Weiss, but a makeable volley from Garrow. He didn't give himself enough margin for error there as he went down the line, and so he's down break point.
Well, now Weiss gives that a look.
3-0.
And Weiss chooses again to receive in the backhand court. Another break point. Simultaneous game point and break point. This is a bit of a disadvantage for the server in this circumstance, or perhaps an advantage to the receiver, however you want to look at it. The server, when he is down 2-3, faces 2 immediate break points. There's no deuce. He doesn't get back. Nothing. No fudge factor here.
Excellent play under pressure from Brian Garrow there. He put in a very deep, penetrating first serve. Watch him now, deep to the backhand. It sets up an aggressive backhand first volley behind Weiss. Shrewd move there. Now it's a short lob from Robbie off the backhand side, which is put away easily by Garrow. We'll take a look at it from a different angle now. That smash, very certain from close range. And Garrow is back to 1 game all in the first set. A very big game here, that second game of the match.
Robbie Weiss serving, looking directly up into the sun. This court is a medium fast hard court, considerably different, as you may well recognize from the slow clay of Roland Garros in Paris.
The right move from Garrow, but the second serve of Robbie Weiss had such heavy spin on it. That kick delivery of his coming up high to the backhand side. Watch Weiss here. Tosses back over his head. Hits the kick serve. His weight comes into the court on the left foot. But he forces an error on that backhand return to serve from Garrow, who could not control the chip down the line. Robbie Weiss hits a reverse cross-court approach here to the backhand side of Garrow. Had a lot of top, not enough depth, and Garrow sets up beautifully for the cross-court pass.
2-1 for Garrow. Well, Steve, this is what we expected if Garrow was to be in this match. Come in, pinch off those top spinners.
Absolutely, and he's doing a good job in that department now. He picked just the right ball to come in on that last point. And Robbie was not able to keep that passing shot down low enough, so it was an easy volley. 2 points all in this game. Such heavy topspin from Robbie Weiss. He gets good depth on it, and it's a heavy, heavy ball that he's hitting. So he's penetrating constantly, forcing you, pinning you back, Kim, so far behind the baseline. I think there's a lot of subtlety to Robbie Weiss. Garrow rallied very well with Weiss in this last point, but that down the line forehand sets up a short ball, which from just behind the service line he takes, comes in down the line on Robbie Weiss, who can't get any angle on the pass. It's an easy forehand volley winner for Brian Garrow. Second consecutive sudden death game. And Garrow decides to receive from the deuce court.
So there's an example of Garrow being caught at the baseline. We'll be back with Robbie Weiss ahead, 2-1 in just a minute. Talking to Robbie Weiss, Alan Fox, the other coach in the background. Now, Steve talked to Alan about that yesterday.
Well, Richard has been the assistant coach at Pepperdine for 4 years, and he does a fantastic job, and it wasn't proper that he be an assistant coach. I mean, he's every bit as much a head coach as I am, and so we have been jointly doing it. In terms of Rob, we sit there, put our heads together. Both of us have a little different something to say, and so Rob doesn't just hear the same line of patter over and over. It's a little bit of a fresh voice every other game.
So what will happen is that Richie Gallion and Alan Fox will alternate on odd game changeovers, to which one of them speaks to Robbie. That would strike me as being confusing, but apparently it's not, as Alan said.
Well, I talked to Alan. I had him elaborate a little bit more on that, Kim, and he said that they think along the same lines, and he believes that he's more of sort of the older father figure, almost age 48, and Gallion's age 27, and they mix well, they think along the same lines, and so it's an unusual situation, but one which benefits Weiss considerably. And I think as we see Robbie Weiss hitting another cross-court backhand return to serve winner, he's going to have to, Garrow have to change his serving patterns a little bit here, because off the two-hander, Weiss has been very sharp on the return to serve.
(0-2), Robbie Weiss with a 2-1 lead. First set.
First serve.
If you just joined us, I'm Kim Prince, along with Steve Flink, executive editor of World Tennis Magazine, and we are at the 104th Annual National Collegiate Tennis Championships. Robbie Weiss at the bottom and Brian Garrow at the top. Garrow from UCLA, Robbie Weiss from Pepperdine University in Malibu, not far from UCLA.
Great play, Brian. There's one down.
Now that is a tougher shot than it looks like. High backhand volley, tough to get mustard on that ball.
You're right, but Garrow happens to handle it very well. Now watch him here as the toss goes up, that high toss, but he leans into the court. Watch him come into the court for serve and volley now. Sets up a high backhand volley, which he plays carefully but executes very well. And that was a big point. Serve wide to the Weiss forehand in the deuce court, something he'll have to do with more regularity. Look at the net advances. 3 for 4 for Weiss, only 6 for 12 for Garrow. And make that 6 for 13 as Weiss's return to serve at the feet sets up an easy forehand pass. And now he has 3 chances to get a break to go up 3-1. Watch Weiss, topspin forehand return, forces the half volley from Garrow. Now he can go either way. He goes cross court for the winner.
Not as tall, but reminds me of Bjorn Borg, that forehand.
It is similar.
Okay, come on, one more now.
And there you heard Glenn Bassett saying, come on now, one more.
Play, Brian.
Garrow served into the body that time. Didn't give Weiss much room to maneuver on his two-handed side. That was a smart play, something he might want to try from time to time.
Still double break point. 2-3.
And there, for the first time in the match, we see that tremendous topspin forehand lob from Robbie Weiss, which is one of his best shots, if not his best shot. A well-disguised weapon that he uses to counterattack throughout a match. Here it is again. Weiss, backhand return to serve, cross court. Backhand volley down the line from Garrow. Now look at him swoop up and over the ball with topspin down the line. Garrow never had a prayer. You see this, Kim, with Robbie Weiss. I noticed it yesterday in the semifinals against Al Parker at the University of Georgia. If he builds a lead, he's a tremendous front runner. He gets confident. He hits out more. As you saw there, he didn't play that down the line safely. He went for the clean winner, and he got it easily. Weiss with a surprise serve and volley there, but Garrow hit a good enough return to force an error on that volley. A high backhand volley for Robbie, but he was outstretched. Difficult shot.
Brian Garrow named the most improved UCLA player this year.
You say that, Kim, with good reason, too. He started off as a freshman as the number 6 player on the team, and then this past year, he was playing a lot at number 4 and number 3, but by the end, he'd moved up here to number 2, and it was great improvement.
There's a look at Glenn Bassett in his 22nd season at UCLA. He played for UCLA, won this national championship in 1950, beat Dick Savitt along the way, who won Wimbledon shortly thereafter.
The next year, in fact.
3-1.
Well, now there you see Weiss putting pressure on Garrow, and Garrow not quite up to it from the baseline, trying to get to net, but he can't. Every time he does, Weiss zings him with a passer. 3-1.
Well, you're right, Kim. He's taken every advantage he has had, but Weiss is just not giving him enough opportunities. The severity of that topspin is awfully difficult to deal with.
Ooh.
That was a shame for Weiss. He hit a beautiful one-handed backhand slice approach down the line there, landed on the baseline. And he just got over-anxious on the smash because normally he wouldn't miss it. Look at the one-handed chip down the line rather than his normal two-hander. Short lob, but Weiss smashes into the net with the open court.
Still game point for Robbie Weiss. He leads 3-1 first set. Ooh, very close.
Went for another one of those kick serves wide.
Game Weiss.
So Robbie Weiss having his way now. He leads 4-1 first set in these NCAA Division I championships. To Henry S. Field Stadium here, Glenn Bassett talking to his young sophomore finalist, Brian Garrow. And this man right here has coached at UCLA for 22 years. One of his NCAA champions, Arthur Ashe, back in 1965. If you're looking for a Hall of Fame tennis player, you would do worse than to start with UCLA. How about Arthur Ashe, Charlie Passerelle, Jimmy Connors, Peter Fleming, Jeff Borowiak, Billy Martin.
Good left arm. Good play right there.
One of the reasons that Glenn Bassett has been so long at UCLA is because he's had some horses to ride. No question about that.
Garrow came in on the wide serve again to the Weiss forehand and knifed away that backhand volley cross court, one of his best shots.
Actually, one of the nice side notes of this tournament is that Alan Fox, the coach at Pepperdine, was the NCAA champion back in 1961 when he was at UCLA. All in the family here.
Alan had a phenomenal week in 1966, which I want to tell you about, Kim, after this point. In 1966, Alan Fox, the coach at Pepperdine, beat all 4 winners of the Grand Slam tournament. Stolly of Australia, Roy Emerson, Manuel Santana. He knocked them all off, and Tony Roach, in one tournament at the Pacific Southwest in Los Angeles. This man here, Alan Fox, that was a sensational week, one of the best of his career.
And then had a date with Jacqueline Bissett that night. The champs always get the girls.
Game Garrow.
Well, that stems the flow a little bit.
Leads 4-2.
4-2 now for Robbie Weiss.
Got to keep in mind that Robbie Weiss still is only nursing a 1 service break lead here. 4-1 sounds enormous. In fact, it's not as substantial as it sounds. He still must bear down and play solid tennis on serve here in this important 7th game of the match.
Robbie Weiss's dad, Hans, is here, as is his brother, Danny.
Volleyball. 1-0.
See Garrow trapped about 10 feet behind the baseline, trying to deal with all that heavy topspin. Many people who have a similarity of style with Robbie Weiss don't get nearly the depth that he does, Kim. They'll hit a lot of balls in the area of the service line. Robbie is always in that range, almost always, at least halfway between the service line and the baseline. The topspin just takes the ball through. Awfully tough.
For those of you who have been watching Robbie Weiss and Brian Garrow in this match, here's a look at the first serve percentages. Weiss 67%, Garrow 46%. That has not been as critical as you might think to date because Weiss has been passing so well. Garrow is in the doubles final along with his teammate Buff Farrow, whom he beat yesterday in the singles semifinal.
Encouragement from Coach Fox at courtside there as Weiss takes the short ball, drills it deep into the forehand corner of Garrow, who had really no chance at all to connect with that passing shot. So Robbie Weiss now, 3 chances to build a 5-2 lead here in the first set.
Come in on that first serve.
3-2.
Glenn Bassett just yelling to his player Garrow, you can try and come in on that first serve. He wants to see him try and actually attack the Weiss first serve, which he hasn't been able to do yet. It's a tough task.
And not by much.
3-0.
Robbie Weiss, in the consideration of many of the coaches and other onlookers here, is the best pro prospect in college tennis these days. I wonder, does he have the strength of shot making, though, to step out on the pro tour, Steve?
I think he does, Kim. Well, we'll have to come back to that point, but I really believe he does. I think he could be an exceptionally good clay court player, and I think he also can do quite well on the hard courts.
Well, now Weiss, having had a 3-1 lead, second serve, game point for each. So Garrow does what his coach wanted him to do, but he hits a short return, and Weiss feasts on it. So Weiss is up 5-2 first set. Back to Henry S. Field Stadium at the campus of the University of Georgia, and there you see Stanford won the team title, beating LSU 5-2 to win for the 9th time in the last 15 years. And the West Coast schools have had a distinct advantage, or a distinct predominance here in the NCAA championships in recent years. Steve, and do you credit that to any particular reason?
Well, I think Dick Gould, the head coach at Stanford, has done a wonderful recruiting job every year, and he makes certain, Kim, to have a strong unit from top to bottom. There's 6 singles matches and 3 doubles matches in every college contest, and he makes sure that he's got depth on his squad. He's
also had some standouts, of course, in John McEnroe and Tim Mayotte, both of whom have won the individual title.
Nice ball, beautiful.
So Garrow, with his back to the wall now, has to do the only thing really which can help him win this match, and that is get to net. Even though Weiss is passing well, it's clear that he's not going to win from the backcourt. It's just not going to happen. So he has to hope that he can get better approaches and crisper volleys.
Ooh. Weiss saw where that serve was coming. He knew it was going to go to his backhand side. He'd moved around so he could hit a forehand reverse down the line, and take a look at what he does with it. Steps inside, well inside the baseline, laces it with a heavy top down the line. Clean winner. Robbie Weiss is a shrewd match player. Probably the best match player to emerge in college tennis this decade.
Bear in mind that Garrow is serving looking right up into the sun, and that makes it a little bit tougher to pick up the return to volley. Second serve, 1 apiece.
Weiss caught Garrow out of position there, trying to sneak
1,
in
2.
with his backhand down the line. Garrow then had to play a weak half volley from the baseline. And Robbie had control of the point. Watch him now. Garrow thought he was going to get in. He couldn't. That down the line backhand fooled him. Weiss takes this forehand, whips it cross court with more heavy top, and he's got himself a 1-2 lead. Take a look at it from the other side of the court, from Brian Garrow's standpoint.
Good play.
Two all.
Although Garrow would be considered quick by many yardsticks, he is not quite in Weiss's category. Weiss has what all great athletes have, and that is tremendous agility, tremendous foot speed.
And outstanding anticipation. You take that anticipation with the agility, Kim, and it's a phenomenal, and it's just a great combination.
2, 3.
And that could be a very expensive error from Brian Garrow. A high backhand for an approach shot from near the service line on a 2-all point here as he trails 2-5 in the set in games. And now Robbie Weiss has 2 set points.
Any man that can hit that shot under those circumstances deserves to win the set. That was a good volley deep to the backhand,
Absolutely.
and Weiss ripped it.
He had penetration on that volley. He had penetration and placement, lots of speed. Weiss ran it down, hit it cross court at a very acute angle. You can't do any more than Brian Garrow did to win that point. Good serve, good first volley, loses the point.
A beautiful sunny day here on the campus of the University of Georgia. If you joined us late, I'm Kim Prince, along with Steve Flink, the executive editor of World Tennis Magazine, and we are at the finals of the NCAA Division I Tennis Championship. This is the singles competition. Stanford has already won earlier in the week the team competition.
Terrific coverage from Garrow on that last point. There's a pretty good passing shot attempt by Robbie Weiss, cross court up the forehand side. Now here's Brian Garrow, chips the backhand down the line. Now watch him read here at the net, the cross court forehand from Weiss, and he places it perfectly for the winner. Garrow took the net away from Weiss by giving him a taste of his own medicine, the topspin forehand lob, which forced Robbie to retreat and play a weak high backhand volley. Here it is. There's the topspin lob. Weiss makes a stab at it, but it's a short reply without much on it. In comes Garrow, takes the net away, and Weiss is not able to make that cross-court backhand pass.
But worst of all, good combination.
The constant words of encouragement coming from courtside there from Glenn Bassett to Brian Garrow. But on the other side of the net, we hear Alan Fox shouting his words of praise to the #1 player in collegiate tennis, Robbie Weiss.
Two all.
Behind Brian Garrow, as you look down at the court, is a grandstand. Underneath that grandstand is the ITCA Collegiate Tennis Hall of Fame. One of the facilities here that Dan McGill, the coach of the University of Georgia, has installed at this beautiful stadium, a perfect stadium for tennis, too. Just lovely.
Mark right there.
Tough to look at the mark on a hard court.
Huh?
Even though the ball does leave a mark.
No, you can't leave the mark? Huh? You can't leave the mark?
Not on a hard court.
What?
Not on a hard court.
Dana Locanto says no looking at the marks on a hard court.
Impossible to tell from that angle. The center strap of the net there blocks our view, but very unusual for Weiss to be that demonstrative.
Well, I think he was demonstrative because he feels the ball went off the line. And I have to say that from our angle, which is high above the court side, it sure looked like it kissed the line. Skidded especially fast.
It did look that way, Kim, from here, but it's a tough call, and I think an umpire is not going to overrule on something that close to the line. Nevertheless, Robbie Weiss makes his point but gets on with his business. He has an impeccable reputation among his peers as a sportsman.
So Weiss saves one break point.
3-all.
Another one coming up.
Make it happen now, Brian.
Robbie Weiss now. He's attacked again. Deep approach shot here from Garrow, but look at the loop cross-court topspin roll from Robbie Weiss. Confounds his opponent. Now for the third time, Garrow has Robbie Weiss in this 3-all sudden death situation on Robbie's serve. But he didn't come through in the first set when he had his chances here.
Going wide.
So Robbie Weiss digs himself out of yet another hole. It's 1-0 in the second set. Of the men's NCAA tennis final. We skip now to the midway point of the second set, and as we rejoin the match, Brian Garrow has broken Robbie Weiss for the first time and is serving at 4-3.
First serve.
He has had a number of opportunities against Weiss on the sudden death points, and for the first time he capitalized on one the last game.
Perfect backhand volley it took to get the break, but he came through with it, so he finds himself in the strange position of being up a break here. 4-3 second set for Garrow.
Well, now he's being overruled.
Replay the point.
They're going to replay the point.
Well, I think the umpire knew, Kim, that it was a late call to begin with and an uncertain one, and he had a very good view of that line right beneath him. So he chose a good time to overrule.
Dana Locanto, the chair umpire.
First serve. Way to be strong in this game, Ryan.
Shots on that point. He got a little bit tentative, and he paid the price because Garrow was all over the net. Watch it here now. Weiss with a chance for the forehand pass here. Garrow reads it. Backhand down the line volley. Robbie with another chance tries the topspin lob. It's short. Garrow is able to put that one away down the line, and Weiss is disappointed in himself. Look at it from Garrow's standpoint here. High backhand volley. He puts a great deal of emphasis into that shot. Puts it away. Weiss very disappointed in himself in his inability to hit out on those passing shots and find the openings.
2-0 for Garrow. Excuse me, 1-0.
Be smooth, Brian. Be smooth. 1-0.
Be smooth, says Glenn Bassett to Brian Garrow, because he came in from a deep position up the backhand and pressed on that approach shot.
Real strong this game now. Want it.
Glenn Bassett in his 22nd year as coach of the UCLA Bruins.
Hey, Brian, nice first serve. Left arm.
Very popular coach.
2-1.
Likeable.
Take a look at the first serve down the middle. from Garrow, deep to the backhand side of Weiss, who nets the return under pressure. That first serve had a little bit more extra bite on it. Came through just a fraction of a second quicker, and it was enough to win the point for Garrow, who's in a commanding position here, semi-commanding, I should say, up a break.
Well, for the first time in the match now, Robbie Weiss is under a little bit of emotional pressure. He realizes he's down a break. He's tightened up a little bit on his returns. He's not quite as loose. It'll be interesting to see how this match goes from here.
Just wide.
As you mentioned, Steve, Robbie Weiss is a tremendous front runner. Plays very, very well and confidently when he has a lead.
Sorry.
Of course, the measure of a champion is, can you sustain that same style of play when you're down a bit? Rod Laver, of course, probably the greatest of all time at that. Well, there you see the sun is directly in Brian Garrow's line of toss. And as I mentioned earlier in the telecast, that's an exceptionally difficult volley to make because you've tossed the ball through the sun. Your eyes have to adjust during the toss. Then you come in, you have to pick up the return and volley it. Not an easy prospect.
Not at all. Plus, you're picking up an exceptionally dipping return, the heavy topspin of Weiss. Dropping quickly, and although he was at close range, he still couldn't handle that first volley.
2 points apiece. Garrow leads 4-3, second set.
Tremendous point from both sides of the court because Weiss worked his way back into it. He appeared to be in a position to win the point. But a great backhand down the line volley from Garrow was able to win him the point. I think, Kim, that Garrow volleys down the line off the backhand side extraordinarily well. Let's watch it here. There was a good defensive lob from Weiss that got him back in. Now he hits a low ball, forces the low volley, goes down the line off the forehand. Looks like he might have him, but Garrow is there to put it away down the line behind Weiss.
That's what Garrow has been doing differently now. He's volleying back, trying to wrong foot Weiss. So Brian Garrow gets a 5-3 lead in the second set on the strength of a very strong serve and volley game.
Weiss is not about to concede this set, though, Kim. I expect that he'll bear down and play a good, solid service game. So Garrow will have to keep the pressure on and maintain the same high standard of play.
First serve.
There, that explosive forehand of Weiss comes through again. He took a routine return of serve from Garrow and just pounded it cross court. The topspin jumped up and away from Garrow, who had no chance to even lob the ball back in the court.
He got it.
2-0.
They're the two coaches of Pepperdine. Richie Gallion on the right, Alan Fox on the left. Alan Fox, a sports psychologist, one of the most eminent ones in the country.
He once wrote a book called If I'm the Better Player, Why Can't I Win? One of the better books on tennis I've ever read.
3-0. Keep your head in there, right shot.
This could be costly because Garrow has worked hard to establish this 5-3 second set lead. He doesn't want to let Weiss out of this service game too easily and then have to try and serve out the set himself.
Game one.
So Robbie Weiss takes a page out of Brian Garrow's book and wins with an ace. When we come back, Brian Garrow will be serving for the second set. Robbie Weiss won the first set 6-2. Brian Garrow has a break in the second set. He serves at 5-4. He has a chance to even this match. Will he be one of the many UCLA players who have won this national championship? Arthur Ashe, Jimmy Connors.
Garrow, Kim Garrow has not lost his serve in this set, but he had won the first point in each of the 4 previous service games. Winning that first point can be a crucial psychological edge. Now he's lost it. Weiss looking for the chance to break back to 5 games all. Garrow laces it, threads the needle with a topspin serve up the middle for a clean ace. Solid first volley down the line off that forehand side. He asked a demanding question of Robbie Weiss, and Weiss couldn't answer it with a down the line backhand pass, catching the tape.
Weiss not quite as confident as he was earlier in the match. Has lost a little edge in his ground strokes. Perhaps just a little bit of his speed as well. Well, Steve, one of the big differences here is that Robbie Weiss had all the pressure on his shoulders coming into this match. He was the #1 seed. He was the favorite. He had only lost 1 set in the way. Brian Garrow, on the other hand, comes through, knocks off 1 seed after another. The upstart, got nothing to lose, loses Ashes. Once he gets a lead, he can go for it. Set point, Brian Garrow. Ooh. How do you figure that? Brian Garrow looked like he was out of this match. He comes back, gets a break, wins the second set.
6-4. 1 set off.
Garrow hit a heavy first serve, come in for the high forehand first volley. Look at the reaction of Glenn Bassett, delighted by the fact that this match is now 1 set all. Excellent serving and volleying throughout that entire second set by Garrow, who did not lose his serve, survived 1 sudden death game on his serve, held serve successfully 5 times, got 1 break, and now here he is in the 3rd set. This reminds me, Kim, a great deal of the quarterfinal match played by Weiss against Brian Shelton of Georgia Tech. That score was 6-2, 3-6, 6-3. Excuse me, 6-4. And Weiss survived a difficult game on his serve at 4-3 in the final set, surviving 2 break points. Similar kind of player.
2-0.
Shelton, like Garrow, attacked mercilessly. But in the end, the stability of the ground game of Weiss was just provided enough edge.
Off to the side of the court, the coaching brains trust of Pepperdine, of Fox and Gallion, huddled closely together, watching Weiss.
Game 1.
So if the old adage that John Newcomb said, fortune favors the brave, is true, then Robbie Weiss has gone after it. He leads 1 game to love in the 3rd and final set. NCAA tennis final. We rejoin the match later in the 3rd set. Brian Garrow to see if he can stop the bleeding here.
Good left arm. Left foot, Ron.
1-0.
Garrow down 3-love, 3rd set. Played a very strong second set, especially at the end of the set. But Weiss came out and broke him in the second game.
Garrow has to remind himself he's only one break down. It may be love 3, but step by step he could work himself back.
That was wide.
1 out.
I mentioned earlier in the telecast that this championship will be moving to Palm Springs next year. Indian Wells, it has been here for 12 consecutive years. Coach Dan McGill of Georgia has done a terrific job hosting this championship, but the coaches seem to feel that it would be good to have it at a neutral site.
It's true, Kim. Although they're going to come back in 1990
Yeah.
right here, and then it'll be up for grabs again.
And there's that shot that Steve Flint mentioned earlier, that top spin lob, very tough to read.
1, 2.
Extremely difficult to read it, and the return of serve was a bullet at the feet. So you kind of expect when he's got that much time that he's going to go for a passing shot cross court. Instead, he just, with the same essential backswing, he confounds you with that topspin lob.
Nice serve, Brian. Gotta be strong out there. Come on.
2 up.
This, of course, is a do-or-die game for Brian Garrow. He's down love 3. He cannot afford to go down 2 service breaks in this final set. He knows it. So he'll do all within his power to try and hold serve here in this essential 4th game of the final set.
Too good.
That's a lovely stroke from Weiss. It was an awkward shot to play because the first volley sort of died down the line in an awkward position in midcourt. Weiss is able to loft this low arcing topspin backhand lob. Take a look at it. Backhand topspin lob, angle cross court. He's delighted.
Weiss begins to sense the kill. A senior, this is his last chance at the title.
Beautiful job.
Garrow will have others, but this is Weiss's last chance at it. He elects to receive serve in the ad court, and he looks over at his coach, Alan Fox, and now Alan Fox points to him to receive in the deuce court. Interesting. That's the first time this has happened during the match.
Tough choice to make because he's been hurt on this side many times by the wide delivery from Garrow, who has then put away the backhand volleys cross court. If Brian Garrow somehow comes back to erase this love 3 third set deficit and win this match, he will remember this volley. Take a look at it here. He hits a backhand volley cross court after the wide serve. Weiss seems to have him with that cross court, but the lunging backhand volley crawls over the top of the net court, lands exactly where Garrow wants it, and he's back now to 1-3 in the final set. Shot that Weiss has enjoyed coming in on throughout this match with success, but this time Garrow had enough time that he saw it coming. The approach wasn't hit with that much speed or penetration, and Garrow lined up that forehand down the line pass. He's suddenly inspired here, but he's got his teeth back into this match and he doesn't want to let go.
This match has had some marvelous ebbs and flows.
And some quality play on both sides of the net. That was a fairly deep return to serve, even if it didn't have much pace, and Weiss somehow able to hit a winner from very deep in the court.
Steve, we mentioned earlier the potential for Robbie Weiss stepping out on the Pro Tour. Could he play in the top 100?
That's his goal, Kim, to be in the top 100 within a year. I don't have any doubt that he can do that. Weiss measuring that backhand approach shot there, not wanting to go down the line to give Farrow another crack at that forehand down the line pass. This one down the center, deep and low. And Garrow could not make that shot.
3-1 for Weiss in both points in this game and in the third set.
Kim, I just believe that Weiss has the tenacity, he has the match-playing prowess, he has the sound ground stroke tools to get him where he wants to go.
Glenn Bassett just set over to Brian Garrow. Way to play your game. Keep it up. That's Garrow's key. Get that volley deep, get the approach deep, then he can keep those violently top-spinning cross-court winners off of Weiss's racket. It's a game of angles. Your geology teacher, your geometry teacher taught you that, didn't he, Steve?
Sure. Oh, good approach, but the down-the-line pass catches the tape.
3-0.
Garrow keeps the pressure on here. Watch him come in on the chipped approach cross-court. It's not very deep, though. Weiss should have probably made that shot, but he didn't give himself enough margin for error over the net. And finds himself in the sudden death situation again, which is the source of some controversy in college tennis. We'll get back to that point.
Every time we think Brian Garrow has been out of this match, he has clawed his way back in. He is on serve in this third set, and we'll be back to see how he does on his serve in just a minute. University of Georgia in Athens. There you see the addition. A set apiece on serve. Garrow serving 2-3 in the third set. Kim Prince, along with Steve Flink, executive editor of World Tennis Magazine. And Brian Garrow has, in point of fact, taken off one of the shirts, or perhaps he's even changed. He had two shirts on earlier. Finally, the heat maybe has made him take off one of them. During the five-game break, Steve and I were talking that every time in the first set that Robbie Weiss had a lead or got to a sudden death point, 3 apiece, he did very well. In this set and in the last set, he has not done as well.
Well, particularly those last two games. He's actually had 3-2 leads in each of the last two games. He could be leading 5-love. Instead, it's 3-2.
That's way to be there, Brian. Be there.
2-0.
Garrow keeping up his customary attack, the high toss. He comes in quickly for the first volley. Has to half volley from behind the service line. He thought he might be beaten, but Weiss nets the pass. Garrow encouraged. Tim, you're not supposed to win consecutive points when each time you come in, you're forced to play a half volley. Garrow has now done that in building this 3-0 lead in this game.
0.
Take a look at the return from Robbie Weiss at the feet of Garrow off a deep serve. Good return. Makes him half volley from behind the service line. But Garrow knows exactly where Weiss is going, and he stabs the forehand volley for the winner.
And you say all those quick volley drills are a waste of time?
Weiss stayed right with that serve.
3-1.
It was coming out wide and high to his backhand with the kick. He stayed with it beautifully and hit a winning return down the line.
Focus in.
Game
3 games apiece. Brian Garrow.
3 games off.
So Robbie Weiss, after having a commanding lead
Strong game right here now.
into the second set, allowed Garrow back in. And there you look.
On your toes now. Every
The
return.
statistics advances 18 and 13 for Weiss, and for Garrow 71 and 40. That was long.
Now that's 72 times into the
1-0.
forecourt for Garrow, and he's won 44 points, which is a better percentage than I would have expected. Early on, he was well below 50%, but the consistency and the regularity of his attack has paid off, and especially as he's worked his way back in the third set. Great shot from Weiss on the cross-court backhand pass.
Good work in the corner.
The approach shot was angled cross-court, fairly deep,
2-0.
low. Tough shot to make under pressure when you're serving at 3-all in the final set, but Weiss did just that. Take a look at it. It's a cross-court, angled cross-court backhand approach, but Weiss reads it and hits it inside the service line, near the sideline for a winner.
Well, Garrow may have been recalling that Weiss had gone down the line on the previous approach passes and went cross-court there. 3-0 for Weiss.
3-0.
Jack Kramer once said that in the third set, the most critical game was the seventh. If that's the truth, Robbie Weiss has a chance here to win it. 4 in a row, that is.
Very uncharacteristic error there from
3-1.
Weiss. Normally, anytime he's set up and going for a winning ground stroke, he'll make it with room to spare. And that one he missed by a wide margin. Just got over anxious there, wanting to finish off this critical seventh game.
Get one more point, Brian.
The sophomore versus the senior, #1 seed, Rob Weiss. There seem to be some demons in Robbie Weiss's game. He has had commanding
3-2.
leads in a number of games that he's let Garrow back into. He just doesn't seem quite to have the penetration, the concentration now to finish off these games, whereas earlier in the match he did.
I think he's gotten a little bit conservative, Kim. I think that's where he's gotten into trouble. That last second serve was quite short. Sat up, inviting Brian Garrow to blast it away for the winner, which he did. I don't think he's done anything outrageous, but I think what he has been is just too cautious when he's been ahead.
Well, you could see the sigh of relief from Robbie Weiss then. So
leads 4-3.
he gets that game, leads 4-3 in the third and final set. We'll see what kind of answers Brian Garrow has when we come back. Don't go away. Back all, Kim Prince along with Steve Flink, the executive editor of World Tennis Magazine, and this young man, a sophomore at UCLA, Brian Garrow, on serve in the third set. Just another one of the long line of UCLA tennis standouts that have come this way.
Garrow came in here Nice volley, which Weiss couldn't do much with on the cross-court pass. And this second volley sets up an easy smash. Garrow leading 1-0 on serve here. 3-4 in the third.
One out.
Some of the other UCLA NCAA champions moving backward: Billy Martin in 1975, Jimmy Connors in 71, Jeff Borowiak in 1970, Charlie Passarell in 66, Arthur Ashe in 65, Alan Fox, the coach of Pepperdine, in 61. Way back to Jack Tidball in 1933, who was the first UCLA student to win. Ryan Garrow has a chance. On the other hand, Robbie Weiss, top of your screen, would be the first Pepperdine player ever to win the championship. His coach, Alan Fox, of course, won it. The most recent one to have a chance was Brad Gilbert back in 1982. He got to the finals but lost to Mike Leach of Michigan. Garrow serving 2-1, third set, 3-4. There have been ebbs and flow in this match, thrust and parry. And that, I think, is that Garrow's first double fall?
No, actually, he served doubles earlier in this set, too, in his first 2 service games, but they've been very few. Take a look at these percentage of second serve points won. 67 for Weiss, 30 for Garrow. That's a combination of the fact that his second serve could use a little bit more depth, but more a tribute to Weiss's return of serve.
Two points apiece.
Robbie Weiss within 6 points of his season-long goal of an NCAA title.
Two, three.
And so now there is a crack in the door. This is the position that Weiss was in frequently in the first set, capitalized. He has had trouble in the last set and a half. Double break point for Weiss. Will Weiss come in here? Excuse me, will Garrow come in?
I believe he will. Weiss came over that with heavy topspin, that return of a second serve, but Garrow knew exactly where it was going, to his forehand volley, and you watch him move to that side, cover the forehand volley, and it's a winner.
Weiss elects to receive serve in the ad court. There's been some indecision actually on his part, along with the coaches. They've been moving him around, but he chooses the backhand side. Simultaneous game and break point. Again, Garrow a second serve. Again, Weiss with a chance to go for a winner.
It's a winner! You called it, Kim, and he hit a magnificent forehand reverse cross-court winner off a second serve. Probably the biggest point Robbie Weiss has played all season long. Break point for 5-3 final set, NCAA final. Watch the return of serve from Weiss, inside out off the forehand. No play for Garrow. He desperately tried to make that backhand volley. Here it is. Garrow lunges, but he can't make the play. And it's a winning return. Robbie Weiss will serve for the match here. He's lost 2 matches all season long, Kim. 154. Only Alex Nizet of SMU and Danny Goldberg of the University of Michigan have been able to beat this man.
1-0. Two, 0.
And now Weiss takes a long trip over to the side of the court. Circuitous route. Marshalling his forces. Gets all the balls from the ball boys, checking the ones he wants.
And he's thinking about what he wants to do with this first serve here, as he's 2 points away from the biggest triumph of his collegiate career.
Garrow looking to get in. Just long. So here are the championship points for Robbie Weiss. He will have 4 of them in a row. 3-0 Robbie Weiss. He leads 5 games to 3, third set. He will be the first player from Pepperdine ever to win the NCAA Division I Men's Championship. And there it is. Robbie Weiss, the senior and #1 seed, justifies that ranking and wins the NCAA Men's Division I Tennis Championship. We're going to have a word with Robbie Weiss as Steve Flink makes his way down to the court. A grateful and much appreciative young man. We'll be back with an interview, so stay with us. More to come. '88 national champion for collegiate tennis, and he is down on the court with our own Steve Flink. Steve?
Robbie Weiss, you just accomplished your goal here. Tell us about the pendulum swinging nature of this match. It seemed you were in command in the first set, and then it got quite tough there after he broke you once in the second.
Yes, it did. I started off, playing pretty well, and he just wasn't making the volleys I should have. I was returning well in the first set. In the second set, I let up a little, and I wasn't returning as well. And I think I let him into the match, and he felt more comfortable on his serve. And then I started missing a few passing shots, and the momentum totally changed from the first set, and it all went down to one game. I was waiting for one break in the third, and I was lucky I did that.
But Robbie, you went up 3-love in that final set, and then you lost 2 consecutive sudden death games. How discouraged were you when he worked his way back into the third set?
I was discouraged, but if I wanted to win this, I couldn't let myself get too down, and I kept my head in the match, and I just kept on fighting, and I knew I could break him one of these days, and I did.
Well, you're ready to move on now to the pro circuit. What are your goals now as you set out on that task?
I would like to be in the top 100 after my first year, and then I'll set myself for higher goals in top 50 and so on down the line.
Well, Robbie, congratulations on winning this NCAA championship in 1988. It was a great effort.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Steve. And so that's the final score. You have it, 3 long sets for Robbie Weiss. He is our new collegiate champion. There you see the match points. So for Steve Flink and all of us at ESPN, thanks for being with us here at Athens, Georgia. Look for him out on the Pro Tour. Thanks a lot.